the fund limitations affect the degree of safeguards and the number of practices. It is a financial issue, thus restraining the cost of security can incorporate enterprise directly. For inadequate employee awareness and engagement, although the risk at the level of management is evaluated once per month, there is no evidence of the scheduled IT security training of the staff, which can lead to the human error or ignorance about phishing, malware, social engineering risks, or data handling practices. For over-dependence on a single IT lead, Mr. Tan, the role is to solely handle and maintain the IT risk and infrastructure. Having too much reliance on one individual amplifies succession and knowledge transfer risks. For lack of formal risk tracking for emerging tech, although standards like NIST SP830 and SP839 are cited, authorized piloting and sandbox of high-risk technologies is not clearly defined and can result in surprise failures or attacks when it is implemented. For regulatory non-compliance risks, although GDPR compliance and other standards compliance is claimed by IRIS, no official results or audits are mentioned. This creates a risk of non-compliance, especially in cross-border data processing remain undetected. That's all from me. And now I will pass the
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel. So today I'm going to present the risk exposure. In this section, we explain how risk exposure is assessed and how calculated in our study. The risk exposure is determined using a qualitative approach based on the formula below. So the formula is risk rating equal to likelihood multiply impact. The likelihood refers to the probability of a risk occurring, while the impact refers to the severity of the consequences. If the risk doesn't happen, as shown in below, likelihood is read on a scale for 0 by 1 to 0 by 9, and with corresponding description ranging for a slight chance or unlikely of occur to expected to occur. Similarly, figure below display the impact score with range for 1 to 5, and depending on how severely the risk could affect the organization. By multiplying these two factors, likelihood and impact will attempt the risk rating, and which help us understand the overall exposure level. For example, a risk with a likelihood of 0 by 7 and an impact score of 5 would result in a risk rating of 3.5, placing it in the high risk category. And the results are categorized into 5 risk levels as shown below. So for the next slide is the risk exposure, top 20 risks. So following this framework, we assess and rank the top 20 identified risks from IRIS Corporation, and which are shown in the final table. For example, system downtime risk was ranked at 0 by 7 likelihood and 5 impact, giving a risk rating for 0 by 5 categories as high risk. And similarly, limited disaster recovery testing and lack of endpoint detecting and response both score 4 by 5, making them severe risk. This structural risk exposure metric allow us to prioritize mitigation effort based on which risks have the most critical impact and are most likely to occur. Now I will presenting the mitigation plan, monitoring plan, response plan. So for the system downtime risk, IRIS ought to implement an infrastructure high availability that use the implementation of cloud-based redundancy and automatic failover system, and as well as the geographical scattering of data center. So for the monitoring plan, IRIS need to adopt real-time monitoring such as Nagios and Datadog to ensure system availability and response time of the application and network latency. So for the response plan, should the system fail, IRIS should activate its disaster recovery protocol threat aware, awaiting operation over the other redundant computer or failover in the cloud. Next is limited disaster recover testing. So IRIS ought to organize realistic and true training of disaster recovery twice a year, including IT, operation, and security department. So for the monitoring plan, IT ought to implement a very strict disaster recovery test schedule when it does the simulation 2 times a year. For the response plan, in case a real situation that provide weak point in the disaster recovery process appear, the company will be permitted to use preset escalation guideline. So for the lack of endpoint detection and response, mitigation plan is endpoint detection and response, which is EDR tools, and including CrowdStrike or Sentinel-1 will have to be implemented in all the endpoint. So for the monitoring plan, EDR tools such as CrowdStrike or Sentinel-1 must be used to protect all endpoint like desktop, laptop, or mobile. So for the response plan, when a branch is suspended or otherwise confirmed, the infected endpoint must be disconnected with the network at the early possibility. So next is concentrate infrastructure. For the mitigation plan, IRIS need to conduct its IT infrastructure over several physical points or cloud system to be able to avoid a single point of failure. So for the monitoring plan, IRIS should audit its infrastructure once every quarter to eliminate concentration of resources with will pause single point of failure. For the response plan, in case of infrastructure fail, the operation must be shifted to the backend environment at once. So next is partial cloud readiness. For the mitigation plan, applications that are missing mission critical more so that ERP and production one must be cloud native such as like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. For the monitoring plan, IRIS must monitor the service of all services in the cloud with the help of the monitoring tool on the portal line, AWS, CloudWatch, or Azure Monitor. So for the response plan, in case a cloud-based application is failed or is underperformed, then IRIS ought to implement its cloud failover solution like alter the load balancers to other region or reroute the specific area. So next is limited use of back-end system. For the mitigation plan, IRIS ought to change to a database-based approach consisting of a demand replication of information, an incremental backend on everyday basis and backup of itself on a daily and weekly basis and off-site and on-site. For the monitoring plan, IRIS ought to apply a backend management software to keep track with the condition of daily incremental backend and the help of week like full backup. For the response plan, when the data get corruption or is lost, then the latest approach copy should be recovered immediately. So the incident threat risk for the mitigation plan to ensure a reduction in incident risk, IRIS should ensure that it use stringent identity and access management like IAM, and that a role and permission should be set according to the least privilege principle. So for the monitoring plan, UEBS system to monitor the activity of employee, and this will identify a normal activity with respect of time of login, access of file, and download of data. For the response plan, in the event of a possible miss of the insight, he or she shall first have his or her privilege revoked. So for the shadow usage, for the mitigation plan to identify unauthorized program or device that have connected to the corporate network, IRIS should rely on automated weaponry tools. So for the monitoring plan, IRIS can install network scanning, utilize or hunt down in of hardware or software that might be attached to the computer that is connected to the network. For the response plan, when the unauthorized tool access are detected, the attacking system should be quarantined and access denied. So BYOD risk. Mitigation plan. The BYOD require registration of device and encryption, antivirus program, and self VPN access. For the monitoring plan, all the individual device used to access corporate systems should be logged to the mobile device management MDM platform. And response plan. In case of an infiltration into a personal device, IRIS ought to prompt dismiss all access credentials and conduct remove wipe of any corporation information. So data leak. For the mitigation plan, IRIS ought to extend the data loss prevention like DLP beyond information on credit card into names, phone number, and business sensitive paper. For the monitoring plan is data loss prevention DLP tools must be used to track any outbound data transfer, including email, attachment, cloud upload. For the response plan, in a case of a conformant leak, IRIS will be required to identify the source of leak while a DLP log inform tools affected and make a report and when it be make a report to the legal and regulatory body. So I will